Straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily. Complete coverage of Day 18 in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial.
What tape did you provide to the Mail online, the Daily Mail?
I provided them 2 tapes.
Depp's attorney Adam Waldman is deposed. And was Johnny Depp's career on the downward before his divorce from Amber Heard?
His star had dimmed due to it getting harder to get him jobs.
Plus,
I remember clearly talking that we had no other option that night but then to use a red blood, like a really red lipstick to, make sure we could cover up the injuries on the lip.
Heard's makeup artist testifies about seeing injuries on the actress before a public appearance. And later, the clock is ticking as a strict deadline approaches.
As I promised, the jury would be done by Memorial Day weekend, and we will be done by Memorial Day weekend.
Law&Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law&Crime Daily. I'm your host, Brian Buckmeyer. Johnny Depp's attorney takes the stand as Amber Heard accuses him of orchestrating a smear campaign against her in the media and social media. Law&Crime's Anjanette Levy is here with what Adam Waldman said and wouldn't say. Anjanette?
Well, Brian, Adam Waldman's testimony played via video deposition, and there were so many questions that he couldn't answer because Johnny Depp's attorney in the defamation lawsuit, Ben Chu, advised him not to answer the questions because doing so could violate attorney-client privilege. Now, Adam Waldman's testimony was presented by Amber Heard to support her counterclaim of defamation against Johnny Depp. Heard claims that Adam Waldman launched a smear campaign against her when he responded to her abuse claims in news stories and in tweets. One of those news stories was a Daily Mail story that was referenced today in testimony.
Said the various discrepancies prove that nothing Heard and her friends said about the events of May 21, 2016 could be considered credible. Do you see that?
Hearsay.
Then I'm going to direct your attention, Mr. Waldman, to the next statement. Quote, quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax. They set Mr. Depp up by calling the cops, but the first attempt didn't do the trick. The officers came to the penthouses, thoroughly searched and interviewed, and left after seeing no damage to face or property. So Amber and her friends spilled a little wine and roughed the place up, got their story straight under the direction of a lawyer and a publicist, and then placed a second call to 911. Do you see that statement?
I do.
Did you make those statements?
Heard said nothing could be considered credible. That's not quoting me. The part with the quote marks, I believe I said that, yes.
Did you make these statements on Mr. Depp's behalf?
Instruct the witness not to answer on the grounds of attorney-client privilege.
I accept the instruction.
And Waldman testified that he also provided 2 recordings, audio recordings of those arguments between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp to the Daily Mail. He also said that Twitter suspended him for life. Think about that. The only other person I can think of who is suspended from Twitter for life is President Donald Trump. And Waldman said that he wrote to Twitter to try to figure out why his account had been permanently suspended. He was told there was an appeal, and then that appeal apparently was lost, so he never really got a clear answer. The suggestion, though, is that Twitter suspended him for life due to those tweets about Amber Heard. Brian?
Hey, maybe Elon Musk can get him back in there if he buys Twitter. But Anjanette,
that's what I was thinking.
But
Mr. Free Speech, right?
Yeah. So the hashtags and dislike of Amber Heard seem to generate from everywhere on social media. So based on what you've heard, did it seem like Waldman is this kind of leader of this smear campaign?
You know, it's so funny that you asked me that because there has been all this talk on Twitter. People kind of joke about Adam Waldman running a bot farm, having all these Russian bots out there to support Johnny Depp. But apparently, through some testimony today on cross-examination of a social media expert for Amber Heard, they elicited some testimony that the hashtag Justice for Johnny Depp had actually been around since 2013. So I thought that was really interesting. So I'm not sure they've been able to draw a correlation or make a nexus or whatever that Adam Waldman somehow was responsible for any hate directed at Amber Heard. Johnny Depp, of course, has fans around the world. He's been around a long time, so he has a lot of supporters.
Yeah. Now, Anjanette, Heard's attorneys must have known that Waldman wouldn't be able to answer certain questions. So why ask them? And do you think that makes it look like Waldman is hiding something for Depp?
I don't think so. I mean, you're a lawyer, Brian, and you know if you don't ask, you kind of have to throw it out there and see what you can get. You don't know if he'll end up answering a question that could give you something that you could work with. So I'm surprised. I've had experiences before where attorneys won't even tell me whether they're representing somebody because they're that private about it and they think it'll violate some type of privilege. So there are some attorneys who are really, really guarded about those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk to anyone about the conversations I have with my clients. That's client-attorney privilege. Right. Those are the questions they seem to be asking. I think every attorney knows you're not going to answer that. But really quick, at the end of it all, what were the major takeaways from this testimony?
Well, I think the major takeaways from Waldman's testimony was that he was defending his client against something that he considered to be false. He also said there were 9 people that said that, corroborated any claim, that they were on the side of this didn't happen. He listed 9 different people who said they did not see any injuries to Amber Heard's face that week after May 21st of 2016. Obviously, May 27th of 2016 is when Amber Heard requested that restraining order and showed up at the courthouse with the mark on her face.
Well, thank you very much, Anjanette. Great reporting, as always. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, our coverage continues in the Johnny Depp-Amber Heard defamation trial. Up next, jurors hear from Depp's former manager why she says Depp's reputation in Hollywood was dwindling. Welcome back. Our comprehensive coverage of the Johnny Depp-Amber Heard defamation trial continues with the video deposition of Depp's former agent. She testified Depp's star power had dimmed based on a negative reputation for his on-set work.
Earlier you said that Mr. Depp's reputation, that he became the greatest actor in the world, right?
That's not what I said, but okay. I said he became the biggest movie star in the world.
Movie star, thank you, forgive me. So, as of the time that you were terminated by Mr. Depp in October 2016, did you still believe that Mr. Depp was the greatest movie star in the world?
No.
Why not?
Because his star had dimmed due to it getting harder to get him jobs, given the reputation that he had acquired due to his lateness and other things.
And what were the other things?
Just, people were talking and the question was out there about his behavior.
And that behavior included?
I think I've described it several times.
Would that behavior include alcohol and drug use?
Yes.
Joining us today is former SWAT and Detective Lisa Lockwood. Lisa, is a fired agent the best witness for Heard? Do you think her testimony may be colored based on how her relationship with Depp ended?
Yes, anytime you have a situation where somebody is no longer in your life, either financially, a former employee, or a friend, or even a relationship, an ex, you're going to have potential for bias. So having her come up there, and you can clearly see in the way that she answered her questions that she was anti-Johnny, the way she was fired, the way that she was let go, saying the last 10 years were terrible. And all we can say with that is even those last 10 years that she said that Johnny was in crisis mode and his star had dimmed, he did still continue to get work in those 10 years, and she was still duly employed by him.
Yeah, that's interesting because even if Depp's fame was diminishing, and I'm not saying it is or isn't, he was an actor for 38 years. I think even after she was fired, he did one more Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and I think some of the Harry Potter movies as well. So I don't know how that really works in terms of him diminishing, but also couldn't Amber Heard's allegations against him be something that adds to that diminishing factor and then prove him right?
Right, and that would be part of it. That's what you need to actually look at. What were the contracts? And certainly Johnny can produce that. What happened to him after all of the allegations came out with her, not the time period of which she was fired. And I think it was several months after the entire projection that was put out to the media that she had been battered. So all it comes down to is looking at the timeline of when he was offered jobs.
Yeah, I think the summation is going to be just that, a giant timeline of his jobs, these allegations. It's going to be interesting to see how both sides break them down. Thank you very much, Lisa. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, we take a closer look at the controversy surrounding Amber Heard's makeup routine. Ahead, winning testimony for Amber Heard's team when the star's makeup artist testifies. Did Heard really have facial injuries that needed to be covered up? Welcome back. Continuing now with our coverage of the Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard trial, as Heard's makeup artist testified via video deposition. She explained what steps she took to cover what she says looked like bruises on Heard's face before an appearance on the James Corden show in 2015. And on cross-examination, Depp's attorneys asked her about her interactions with Depp.
When I came to the penthouse on December 16 to do Amber's makeup, she had injuries. She had too light, I don't know how, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a medical expert, I don't know how I would describe them, but it could have looked like somebody had headbutted her lightly, so she had a discoloration here, under both eyes, and on the bridge of the nose. And she had what I would call a split lip or something on the lip. We covered the discoloration or the bruises with a little slightly heavier concealer. Although Amber always, has a red lip, is one of her signature look. I remember clearly talking that we had no other option that night but then to use a red blood, like a really red lipstick to, make sure we could cover up the injuries on the lip.
What was your impression of Mr. Depp when you first met him?
Lovely.
You thought he was lovely?
Yeah.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp act in a violent manner?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp slap Miss Heard?
No.
Punch her?
No.
Is it fair to say, Ms. Iglesias, that you never saw Mr. Depp be physically abusive towards Miss Heard?
Correct.
Joining us is also his co-host Terry Austin. Terry, Heard's makeup artist would be, for lack of a better term, an expert as to Amber Heard's face. She seems to be able to point out injuries on her face and show when and where she had to cover those bruisings up with makeup. So is this strong evidence of alleged abuse?
Well, it's strong evidence in a sense, Brian. Melanie Iglesias was extremely credible. She met Amber at the Tribeca Film Festival back in April 2015. And she saw pictures of the quote-unquote abuse right before the James Corden show in December of 2016. And she was very specific, and she said she saw those in person. But the real issue here is, did she see what caused those injuries? And she testified that she did not. Every single thing that she saw was just based on what Amber told her. So that's not absolutely evidence of the fact that Depp did that to her. But she was very credible.
Yeah, that's a good question there. All right, Lisa, can you help me, and probably most guys like me who know very little to nothing about makeup, did any of this make sense? Can you cover up these injuries with makeup the way that she's describing?
Oh, you sure can. And she even said that she did special effects. What I found interesting is she said she actually put bruises on people. She had that skill set. So not knowing whether or not the presupposition is that she put wounds on herself, and that's what the general public is saying. So from her being close up, knowing what Amber's face looks like, and knowing what to do to cover wounds or injuries, she would be a pro at it, especially working in the special effects department. So whether or not what she said she thought was authentic, I think she came across as very credible. But like Terry said, we don't know the source of any of the injuries.
All right, we'll see what the jury decides when they get this case eventually. When we come back, the clock is ticking as we approach closing arguments in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. Next, we take a closer look at the strict timeline set up for each side and explain how that could affect their case. Welcome back. As Memorial Day approaches, the clock is ticking for both sides in the Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard defamation trial. But could a string of objections from Depp's team be a stalling tactic? Law&Crime Network Sierra Gillespie explains why we may have seen so many objections.
From the start of the trial, Judge Penny Azcarate has issued a strict time limit for each side, 61 hours and 15 minutes. Some trial watchers believe Depp's team is trying to run out the clock by issuing countless objections. Experts tell me, though, it's not Depp's team being tricky. They're just doing their job.
Because I promised this jury would be done by Memorial Day weekend, and we will be done by Memorial Day weekend.
While issuing a time limit is unusual, law and crime legal analyst Dina Dahl says it isn't unheard of.
It was maybe for one because she knew it was going to be televised, and she was trying to, quite frankly, control also the amount of time for the fact that these, juries were already going to be sitting for such a long time.
And while the clock is ticking, we've seen some pretty memorable testimony.
I want to try to move along. So
it made contact and shattered.
I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken.
But maybe the most memorable point of Amber Heard's testimony is the number of objections by Depp's attorney, Camille Vasquez.
Is that true?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Your Honor, she absolutely did that.
It's leading.
Maybe objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Relating to your nose.
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Foundation, hearsay.
What if anything is not the cure-all?
But Dahl says it's not a calculated move to use up time.
The amount of objections we're seeing is actually fairly typical in civil litigation. I mean, it's a strategy. For one thing, they're trying to throw, quite frankly, the lawyer off of their train of thought with the questioning of the witness, and also throw off the witness. It makes it also harder for the jury to kind of follow the story.
And that famous phrasing from Heard's team?
What, if anything, did you report to Aaron Filati? What, if any, production did you make? What, if anything? I'm trying.
That's just her attorneys doing their job.
What they're trying to avoid is a leading question. We don't want the lawyer to be testifying, right? We want the witness to be testifying. So there's a rule that you can ask an open-ended question and to get the evidence that you want. But the lawyer can't kind of maybe remind the witness of the testimony or try to kind of put words in the mouth of the testimony. And so that's where that objection comes in, is, are you leading the witness? The attorney is trying to get around that by saying, what, if anything, but then she goes ahead and she leads the witness with the rest of her question. It's not that the lawyers, I think, don't understand the hearsay rule, but they are trying to get in this, what they think is really good evidence within one of the exceptions to the hearsay rule. And that's why the job of basically the Johnny Depp's team is to kind of hold them to that general rule and say, hey, well, that exception doesn't apply.
While the slew of objections and phrasing may not be a tactic to stall, the clock is still ticking.
As we said from the very beginning, once time is up, once your time is up, your time is up. If it's in the middle of a witness, I'm going to stop you.
As of now, closing arguments are expected to be presented next Friday on May 27th. Reporting for Law&Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Thanks, Sierra. Just to give us an idea of how much time is on the clock, Depp's side has 18 hours and 30 minutes. Heard's side has 8 hours and 14 minutes. Lisa, let's go to you first. Do you think this was a wise move for the judge to make this decision about timing? And where do you think we would be if she didn't do it?
Well, I have to tell you, former military, I love time charts. I love things to be right on schedule. And the fact that it's Memorial Day weekend and a week had already been off, I think it's good to set some type of parameter. I think it's only going to sharpen the pencils for these lawyers and to make sure they do what they need to do and it's concise and there's not a lot of extra hoopla surrounding the case. I like it.
I agree. Now, Terry, we heard the judge say it. If they're in the middle of a witness, that's it. Do you think the judge is really going to hold their feet to the fire that intensely?
Well, she can try to hold their feet to the fire. Listen, I have tried dozens, if not hundreds, of civil lawsuits. And the judge will try to hold your feet to the fire. They will try to set deadlines. They will try to limit how long you are up there. And the attorneys are going to try to stick to those deadlines, stick to those limits. But I've got to tell you, Brian, if they go over, I cannot see, and I have not heard of a judge cutting them off and not giving them some sort of extension. And if that were to occur, as far as I'm concerned, any of the parties could either try to make a motion for a mistrial, which of course will not be granted because it's the judge doing it, or they will appeal what is going on. They have every right to put on their case. They have every right to put in all of the evidence, unless there's some reason that they are stalling. And I don't think that is occurring here. So I think she can try to set these limits, but at the end of the day, the attorneys will either abide by them or she'll give them some sort of extension.
Well, let's say her side will run out of time first. We'll see how that plays out. Well, thank you both. And thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.